Once again, a joint effort between Middlesex County Automobile Club and Tame Motorsport Club, the Rockingham Stages will be back for its annual December event. Sadly, this year we would only get one day of competitive action due to overnight snow, putting an end to day 2 on safety grounds. But day 1 would provide plenty of action and competition nevertheless. This weekend would see some new faces among the four-wheel drive crews, with William Hill and Richard Crozier taking an early advantage in the Fiesta R5, stepping up from the Fiesta R2 for a one-off drive this weekend and taking to it well. For Daryl Morris and Steve Gully, it would be second. They'd be 16 seconds back from the leaders, but would have a good advantage in their class. Second in that class and just behind on the overall leaderboard for Stephen Beck and Paul Brown. They would be 15 seconds back from Morris after the second stage of the day. Meanwhile, it will be a good start to the rally for Dale Crosley and John Vordin, lying 4th at this stage and leading the way in Class 4 in the Mazda MX-5, actually on an identical time overall to Beck up ahead. For Paul King and Alicia Miles, it would be second in that class. The times were close as well, only 3 seconds the difference in the top of the class at this stage. Robin Adams and Ray Keith end the morning with 3rd place in Class 3, 18 seconds back from King up ahead. Frustratingly for Dave West and Keith Hounslow, they'd pick up a 30-second penalty in the opening stages of the day. That meant 7th place overall for now. Things, of course, could have been a lot different without that penalty in place, but they'd have to try and make back the time in the next loop of stages. Should be exciting for the spectators at least. For David Gathercole and Glenn O'Dell, it would be 3rd place in Class 4, 9 seconds back from West at this stage and chasing hard. Martin Stockdale and Mark Swallow will be lying 4th place in that class at this stage. The BMW pairing just 5 seconds back in that position in the class and overall leaderboard. And rounding out a very close top 10 at this stage were Kevin Boyle and Ken Bills, pair on the same overall time as Stockdale ahead. The opening stages, though, would claim a few crews. The first one being Ross and Connor Way, the 205 losing control and hitting the tunnel not far off the start line, causing a significant amount of damage, a bit of a dramatic accident, but thankfully the crew both okay, if a little sore. Just looking at some of the classes outside of the top 10 then, and it would be Robert Hayter and Richard Rook lying 2nd in Class 5, a little way off the lead in the class, but with a good advantage in that 2nd place. For Anthony Robinson and Phil Clark, it will be 5th place in Class 4. A good start for the Citroën DS3 pair, as they end the loop with 13th on the leaderboard. And Chris Gravestock and Mark Harmer make a great start to the event with the lead in Class 2. They'd have a 30-second advantage in the class as well. For Craig Fleming and Paul Romery, it will be 3rd place in Class 5. The time's improving on the 2nd pass of the stage, 20th on our leaderboard for now. A few places back overall were Matt Maxted and Nick Starkey, 2nd place in Class 2, but their advantage there wasn't such a big one. The fight would still be on, and let's not forget, we'd have one day less of competition than the crews were expecting. There'd only be 7 seconds between them and 3rd place in the class, Chris Keys and James Riley. That's 2nd place in the class within reach then. For Daniel and David Edgar, it will be 4th place in Class 5, 19 seconds back from the podium positions in the class at this stage in the rally. Matt and Suze ND make a great start to the event in the Micra, ending the opening loop with the lead in Class 1 as well as 27th overall. It wouldn't be plain sailing though for Ian Barkley and Sue Plater. They get caught out and spin the Darien on stage 2, luckily getting away without any damage. Cliff Rook and Marta Kilmer Tamala end the morning's opening stages with 5th place in Class 5, lying 30th on the leaderboard as well in that Evo. And for Adrian Mayle and Craig Aston, it will be 2nd place in Class 1, 30 seconds behind the class leaders at this stage. 4th in Class 2 would be where Matt Wheeler and Jamie Vaughan end Stage 2. A good start to the day, although they do drop down a little after the opening stage. For Trevor Hancock and Joanne Watson, it will be third place in Class 1, only 9 seconds back from those up ahead in the class, and going well in that mini. Great to see minis out competing still. Ryan Gibson and Phil Chicken end the second stage with 5th place in Class 2, 7 seconds back from Wheeler up ahead in the class, and a few positions back on the overall leaderboard too. Meanwhile, Sheldon Furby and John Parsons would end the morning with 4th place in Class 1. They'd have almost half a minute to catch up if they wanted to aim for a podium in the class this weekend. Adam Ripper and Paul Gallagher have a good start to the rally to lead the way in Class 0. Just the 2 crews in that class this weekend. For Paul Wilson and Malcolm Braid, it was a few places back on the overall results. 5th place in Class 1 for the pair at this stage. And in case you were wondering, the second crew in Class 0 this weekend would be Bev Warren and Mick Pickles, second in the class, 50th on the overall leaderboard. Frustratingly and quite dramatically at times for some, the opening stages were not too kind. We've already seen some of the attrition, and we also lose Jeffrey and Christopher Martin when they go wide, ending up in the gravel trap, stuck there for the remainder of the stage. So 2 stages complete here at Rockingham then, in an event that would eventually be half the stage mileage. That could change a few of the strategies through the afternoon. At the moment, the top after stage 2 of the leaderboard looks like this. On to the next couple of stages then, and there would be no change to the lead, apart from the advantage. William Hill and Richard Crozier still out in front, and with a 27-second lead. For Daryl Morris and Steve Gully, it would still be second place. They were, of course, still leading the way in Class 3 from that position as well. And second in that class, and the final step on the podium would still belong to Stephen Beck and Paul Brown. 20 seconds back from Morris, so it wasn't quite all over yet. One puncture, or a big push, would indeed change that around quite easily. For Paul King and Alicia Miles, it will be 4th place overall. The lead in Class 4, starting to gain a little time back now that the day was moving into the second half. But sadly for them, the move up for King also means a slip down to second in the class for this pair, Dale Crosley and John Vordin. No longer leading, but still going well in 5th place overall. For Robin Adams and Ray Keith, it will be 3rd in Class 3. The time's looking good as the pair remain steady and consistent on the overall leaderboard. David Gathercole and Glyn Odell, meanwhile, make a move the right way up the leaderboard in this pair of stages, getting into 7th place overall now and 3rd in the class. Just behind them, 4th in the class would be this pair, Martin Stockdale and Mark Swallow. They too move a place up the overall results. And a similar story for Kevin Boyle and Ken Bills as well. 4th place in Class 3 for them at this stage and moving up to 9th overall. So, rounding out the top 10 now were Roland Brown and Terry Lookings, gaining a few places overall through these stages. Part of these changes to the leaderboard would be due to the drop out of the top of the results for Dave West and Keith Hounslow. Damage to the car in this loop was also an indication that all was not well. And onto those classes outside the top 10, it will be 5th place in Class 4 at this stage for Anthony Robinson and Phil Clark, going well in the DS3 still. Chris Gravestock and Mark Harmer managed to keep hold of the lead in Class 2, despite this spin on the 4th stage of the day. Thankfully, not enough to lose them the lead in the class, just enough to cut down their advantage in that position. Chris Keys and James Riley would gain a place in Class 2 over these stages, now up to 2nd in the class and gaining a few positions overall as well to line 19th. And the move up the class results will be even better for Daniel and David Edgar. They end this pair of stages with 2nd in Class 5, a great step up from the 4th place that they'd held this morning. For Matt Maxted and Nick Starkey, it will be 3rd in Class 2. Sadly, a move the wrong way was in order as far as the class was concerned, but they do remain 22nd overall. There'd be no change to the Class 1 lead though. Matt and Suze Endine looking quite secure in that position. All they had to do was get to the finish. Change again in Class 5 as many move up the results. This time though, Cliff Rook and Marta Kilmer-Tamala who move up to take third in the class at this stage. For Trevor Hancock and Joanne Watson, it will be second in Class 1 for now, moving that mini up a place in the results in the class and up to 29th overall. That does mean it's a change for Adrian Mayle and Craig Aston. They sadly drop a place, now lying third in the class behind Hancock and 31st overall, but it was far from over just yet. There'd be no change though for Matt Wheeler and Jamie Vaughan. Fourth in Class 2 was still theirs, although the gap to those podium places was still a pretty significant one. And just behind them in the class were Ryan Gibson and Phil Chicken. Fifth place in Class 2, 27 seconds back from Wheeler in the class and overall leaderboard. Sheldon Furby and John Parsons remain fourth in their class at this stage, gaining a couple of places overall to take 36th on our leaderboard too. No change in Class 0, not that there was a lot to change. Adam Ripper and Paul Gallagher still leading the way there. The gap up to 10 minutes now, so that class victory was looking pretty safe if they could reach the finish. The changes in Class 5 will be due to the move down the leaderboard for Robert Hayter and Richard Rook. They drop right back to fourth in the class and 42nd overall. No change though for Paul Wilson and Malcolm Braid. They continue to lie fifth in Class 1, ending Stage 4 with that position and 43rd on the leaderboard. And for Alistair and Nigel Crossley, it will be a move up to 5th place in Class 5 through these stages, ending the morning with 45th place. No change for this pair, Bev Warren and Mick Pickles. They end the morning with 2nd in Class 0, 48th place overall, and as we heard just a little while ago, quite a way back in that class leaderboard. So 4 stages complete, the rally moving into the darkness. There are some changes though to the results, right through the leaderboard in fact, but those overall podium positions don't look like changing just yet. On to the final stages of the rally then, as it would turn out, and there would be no change to the result for Bev Warren and Mick Pickles. 2nd place in Class 0 for them. For Paul Wilson and Malcolm Braid, it will be 5th in Class 1 at the end of the event. No change for Sheldon Furby and John Parsons. They end the event with 4th in that class, a few places up ahead of Wilson on the overall results. And just as we'd expected, there'd be no change to the results for Adam Ripper and Paul Gallagher, coming away with the Class 0 victory this weekend in that micro. It will be a good end to the rally for Adrian Mayle and Craig Aston as they take the final step on the podium in Class 3 in that Alpha. For Cliff Rook and Marta Kilmer-Tamala, it will be 5th place in Class 5 to end the rally this weekend. Not where they'd hoped, but a finish nonetheless. For Ryan Gibson and Phil Chicken, it will be 5th place in Class 2. No change for them in the class, and they end the day with 31st on the leaderboard as well. No change either in the class for Matt Wheeler and Jamie Vaughan. 4th place in that class for the pair at the end of the rally and 30th on the leaderboard. Meanwhile, it was a runner-up spot in Class 1 for Trevor Hancock and Joanne Watson to round out a pretty strong event for the pair in the Mini. There will be no doubting, though, that class victory for Matt and Suze Endine in Class 1. A great result for the pair who take that class victory as well as 23rd overall. No change from Matt Maxted and Nick Starkey in the final stages of the rally. They end the event with 3rd place in Class 2 and 20th overall. It was a good end to the day, though, for Daniel and David Edgar. 2nd place in Class 5 would be theirs to the finish. For Chris Keys and James Riley, it will be 2nd place in Class 2. They finish a minute off the class lead at the end of the rally. And speaking of that class lead, ultimately taking victory, it will be Chris Gravestock and Mark Harmer. No major mistakes for the pair, meaning a great way to end the day. Change up ahead in Class 4 means that Dave Jennings and Lorraine Nixon step up to take 5th place in the class at the end of the rally. That puts them in 13th overall. And it's Anthony Robinson and Phil Clark who gain a place in that class, taking 4th and moving up to round out our top 10. No change for Kevin Boyle and Ken Bills overall, remaining in 9th place. However, they would slip down in the class ever so slightly to take 5th place. Beating them to that 4th in the class would be this man, Roland Brown, with Terry Lookings alongside, taking the class position from Boyle and moving up to 8th overall in the closing stages of the event. For Martin Stockdale and Mark Swallow, it would be a place gained in Class 4, moving up to 3rd in the class and 7th overall. And for David Gathercole and Glyn O'Dell, it would be a move to 2nd in the class and 6th place on the overall times. Robin Adams and Ray Keith gain a place overall to take 5th, but the class place was safe, 3rd place in Class 3. And the results at the top, well, they would stay the same. Paul King and Alicia Miles taking the Class 4 victory, as well as 4th overall. And onto those unchanged podium positions then. No prizes for getting these ones. Stephen Beck and Paul Brown end the rally with 3rd place overall, taking 2nd in Class 3 with that result as well. For Daryl Morris and Steve Gully, it will be the Class 3 victory. And of course, the pair remain 2nd place overall as well. But that means it's victory for William Hill and Richard Crozier, the first time in the car, and things couldn't have gone any better. A shame for the result to be called after only the first day of competition, but they've clearly shown good pace in that car from the start. So with the rally ending early and the results declared after day 1, perhaps a few will be ruining their strategy going into a 2-day event that became a 1-day. But the final results, either way, at the 2017 Rockingham Stages look like this.